read-throughs on Doctor Who are absolutely mad because there's a huge audience like this sitting watching it, with everyone you've never heard of from the BBC. But they basically, the idea is it's the cast, or as many of the cast as you can possibly get hold of. Always Peter, always companion, always the guest cast, and they're sat around the centre, and we literally read through the script with as much enthusiasm as we can possibly muster while sitting down in chairs, sat at a table in an airless room.
Because you'll like some of the parts yourself.
And acting is a very strong word for what I do when I sit around it. I read very badly parts that are later cut because I read them so badly.
That's true. You are the kiss of death.
Basically, you don't want to give me a major part because your script needs to be rewritten from the ground up if that happens. But yeah, occasionally, if there's some, especially much smaller parts, so 1 or 2 lines, the actor won't necessarily come all the way to Cardiff. Because often, once we get going, often the read-through is sort of in the evening when they've finished a day's filming, and 7, 8 o'clock at night, and we all sit round and we do usually 2 episodes at a time. And if it's a small part, then I or one of the other script team will kind of just quickly shout the line out and hope they move on very quickly. And the idea is just to hear it read, because you can read a script 100 times, but to hear Peter Capaldi actually do the line tells you a lot about, whether the pacing is right, whether it sounds quite. Some lines don't just sound quite right. It's really hard. You can read it to yourself as many times as you like. It just doesn't sound quite right until you've heard someone actually try to do it, and you go, actually, that's a really fiddly line that doesn't work.
And there's another thing, isn't there? Because we've all read so many drafts of the script by that point, it is very hard to read draft 7 or 8. It really is. You're starting to read things that aren't there, aren't you? You forget, did we cut that? Do we still have that in? I can't remember. You start zoning out in a way because you've read it so often and you've been through so many meetings that you read the script and think, hang on, was that scene in or wasn't it? You go to the read-through and it's a sort of refresher, isn't it? You think,
brings it alive
that's what it is. My not favorite, but funniest things I can say about read-throughs were the read-through for Heaven Sent, which, for those of you who know, was more or less solo for Peter Capaldi. And me doing the stage direction. So that was just 2 middle-aged, tired Scotsmen barking at each other for an hour. And wondering why. Is this really necessary? Why are we doing this? And the very, very first, the worst read-through of my entire life, where I nearly left the industry, was for The Empty Child, which is the very first Doctor Who I wrote for Christopher Eccleston. And it was awful. Everyone was really tired. It was towards the end of the series. They'd just come off the set, and it'd been a long filming day. And there wasn't, critically, a child to play the part of the little boy who goes around saying, "Are you my mummy?" all the time. There was just, one of Nick's predecessors giving it all of that Nick Lambon energy. So every so often we'd get, "Are you my mummy? Are you my mummy? Are you my mummy? Are you my mummy?" So the first note I got after, do you think that The Empty Child says, "Are you my mummy?" too often? I think it could be better than that. It could be better.